Today, we're going on a bit of a historical detective mission. We're going to trace these hidden connections, these invisible threads that link ancient cultures all across Asia. Links that have been hiding in plain sight for centuries. Let's dive in.
I know, it sounds like the setup to a really strange joke, right? But the answer isn't a punchline. It's actually two incredible stories. Two journeys that show us how words and even entire belief systems could travel thousands of miles, thousands of years ago, weaving this amazing common thread through our shared history.
All right, so our first journey kicks off on the Korean peninsula, and it all starts with just a single, really powerful idea that's all wrapped up in one very energetic word.
That word is Sotda. At its absolute core, this word is all about upward momentum. I mean, you can picture it, right? A fountain gushing water, a mountain peak just rising up into the clouds, or a bird soaring high into the air. It's that raw vertical energy.
And here's where this simple idea bridges two completely different worlds. On one hand, physically it's about rising up, but spiritually it gives us something called the sote. This was a sacred wooden pole, often with a bird carved on top, that ancient Koreans would set up to connect our world, the earthly realm, with the heavens. It literally rises up to the gods.
Okay, so we've got this idea of sacred height. Now let's actually follow the sound of that word. Imagine it drifting from Korea right across the sea to Japan. We're going to see what happens to it.
You know, linguists have actually traced this Korean root, sot, and what they found in Japanese is just fascinating. It's like finding echoes of a sound across the water. So you take the Korean sotde, that pole pointing up to the sky. Well, it seems to share a root with the Japanese word sora, which means sky. And then there's Sodo, a sacred area outside a village. It connects to the Japanese word Soto, which means, you guessed it, outside. The sounds might have changed a bit, but that core idea of height, boundaries, and upward motion, it's still there.
So this is the key takeaway, this beautiful connection. The Korean word for the thing pointing to the sky, the sate, shares its ancient DNA with the Japanese word for the sky itself, sora. It's like an idea literally leaped across the ocean. Now hold that thought, because while this incredible linguistic journey was happening, a totally different kind of journey was taking place over land. And this one wasn't just carrying words, it was carrying entire worlds of belief.
Yep, while words were sailing across the sea, entire belief systems were trekking over land, using one of the most famous networks in all of human history.
I mean, when we think of the Silk Road, we all picture silk, spices, all kinds of treasure, right? But honestly, the most valuable things being traded were ideas. It was basically a superhighway for culture, for philosophy, for religion, and it connected these distant corners of the world in a way that had just never happened before.
And one of the most influential religions to travel down this road was something called Zoroastrianism. It started way back in ancient Persia, and its core belief is this really powerful cosmic duel. You have Ahura Mazda, who is a god of light, truth, and the heavens, and he's in this constant battle with the spirit of darkness and lies. And the entire universe is basically their battlefield.
And you gotta understand, this was not a quick trip. We're talking about ideas spreading gradually over centuries. It was carried by merchants, by migrants, and this ancient Persian faith traveled farther and farther east, eventually leaving its mark deep inside the heart of China.
And get this, we have the physical proof. In China, archaeologists unearthed the tomb of a 6th century official, a guy named Yu Hong, and carved right there on his sarcophagus they found these figures, priests with human faces and bird bodies. I mean, that is a classic Zoroastrian image, straight out of Persia. It is just definitive proof that these ideas didn't just travel, they were adopted and honored thousands of miles from home.
Now take a look at this image from another tomb. It actually shows a sacred fire altar, which is the central symbol of Zoroastrian worship, and it's being carried on the back of a camel. I mean, you literally cannot get a more perfect picture of a religion on the move, being physically carried right along the Silk Road.
Okay, so let's pull back for a second. We have two totally different trails, right? One is a trail of language, leading from a Korean pole all the way to the Japanese sky. The other is a trail of myth, stretching from a Persian god to a tomb in China. Now, on the surface, they seem completely unrelated. But what happens when we look at where both of these paths are pointing?
So let's break it down. We've got these two separate, really fascinating stories of how culture spreads. On one trail, a word for a sacred pole that reaches for the sky evolves into the actual word for the sky.
On the other, a religion built around a sky god of light travels clear across a continent, and its symbols pop up in these faraway lands. So, what on earth do they have in common?
Now, to be clear, the sources aren't saying there's a direct line connecting a Korean Soto to Zoroastrianism. No, they're revealing something much, much deeper. Both of these stories, they come from the exact same fundamental human impulse to look up. It doesn't matter if you're putting up a pole to connect with the heavens or you're worshiping a god of light who lives there. Ancient people all across Asia were all gazing at the same sky, looking for divinity, looking for meaning.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, these connections were found hiding in the roots of everyday words and in the carvings on a tomb that was forgotten for centuries. So what other invisible threads of history are out there all around us, just hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to find them?